I feel that game developers come from various different backgrounds. Some indie devs come from, I assume, working on AAA games. Others probably studied game design in school, and some are self-taught modders that just wanted to make their dream game. I, however, have a TV show and a single person to thank for my venture into game development. That show is The Expanse, and that person is a set designer named Carl Crosby. And this is the story on how I started my venture as a solo game developer. Let's rewind to 2017. I'm about to start work on The Expanse Season 3 as a graphic designer. I figured that this season would be similar to the other previous 2 seasons, but something really interesting happened. At the start of Season 3, a set designer named Carl brought in a desktop PC and a HTC Vive to the art department. On his previous show called Dark Matter, he started simulating his own sets in VR and thought that it would be a good tool to have on The Expanse. And one thing about Carl is that he's always at the forefront of bringing in new technology into the art department. I remember in Season 1, he brought in his own 3D printer. That was really interesting because at the time 3D printers were still kind of a new thing to have at home, and it was amazing to have like an Ultimaker in the art department. The thing is about Season 3 of The Expanse is that Carl was going to be designing his own sets on the show, and he felt that having someone who just handles all the VR on the show, meaning like to simulate every set on the show, would be a pretty much full-time position. And they were looking for someone to do that, and I was given that opportunity. Carl showed me how it was done, and I just ran with it. My skill set pretty much fits this whole VR stuff because when I was in university, I studied new media, which is a mixture between technology and art. And with my background in new media and the previous 2 seasons I did on the show, I felt pretty comfortable with taking on this new role, and it was exciting, but there was a lot to learn. I'll still never forget when I put the Rossi Ops deck into VR and was walking around it, because that just completely blew my mind. I thought it was so cool, and from then on in, I was hooked. I thought that, this was the coolest thing, coolest job ever, and I had to keep doing this for forever. I ended up buying my own HTC Vive and PC, and I started learning the ins and outs of Unity and VR. I also started to learn how to animate, and the Razorback chair animation was the first time I've ever animated something in Unity. And also I started to learn C# programming, and opening up the doors on the Rocinante was the first C# piece of code that I wrote. I saw value in walking around the sets in VR, especially for a science fiction TV show, and I think it's quite a powerful tool for directors, designers, and just creatives on the show. At some point in the production, Carl got in contact with a company called Cinema Suite, and they actually developed a pretty cool tool for us. It was a camera tool, so we can take screen grabs of the sets in VR, and they all have like lens data and stuff like that. So shout out to Cinema Suite for doing something like that, and we really appreciate it. I wanted to see what we can do with Unity and VR, so I made an experience called the Rocinante experience demo. And I found a way to capture 360 videos of the sets, and if you are familiar with my channel, you've probably seen at least one of these videos. I'll leave a playlist up above if you want to check them out. So within my first year of working in Unity, I actually made my first game. It was a VR game called Alpha Locus VR. It's not very good, but I learned a lot about the Steam pipeline and just programming and game development in general. And these were all skills that were valuable later down the road. Also, a thing to note about the film industry is usually in between shows, you can have a bit of a break. Some people choose not to take a break and to go on to another show, but I always took a significant amount of time off between shows and between seasons of The Expanse, like months off. But during that time, I always like to travel. As much traveling as I could squeeze in between seasons, I would usually do that. And the thing is, at the time, I started creating a concept for a VR, like virtual gallery that you can walk around and look at artwork. However, when I was traveling, I couldn't really bring my whole VR kit. And I still wanted to game develop. So what I decided to do is, instead of making a VR experience on my free time, I decided just to make a standalone PC game that wasn't in VR. But it was cool because I got a gaming laptop that I could travel with and also work on stuff. It was something to pass the time too during long plane rides or train or bus rides. I always had my laptop with me to game develop. And it was funny, no matter where I was in the world and what I was doing, I always made sure I had time set aside to work on the game. I started blocking out fundamental ideas. I wanted to make something that had like multiple different branching pathways, so each person that plays it could have a slightly different experience to each other. And I really thought that idea had value to it. And I was really inspired by the Stanley's Parable as well. I absolutely love that game. I think the concept around it was really interesting. So anytime I was figuring something out about game development, I would search up tutorials on YouTube, and I found that the Bracky's YouTube channel is very, very valuable, and I suggest anyone who's getting into game design, check out the Bracky's YouTube channel. It has a lot of great resources about making games and the fundamentals of Unity. One thing that is cool about Unity is that there's a lot of resources available. Anytime you have like a question or you're troubleshooting something, it's probably already been asked or done before, so you'll find a resource on a forum or something and definitely be able to answer or solve your problems, which I think is very valuable as well for a community of game developers that work in the same engine. By 2019, my game really started to take shape, and I started to take game dev very seriously. Even when I came back from traveling, I would work on my game after my full-time job. I would work on it on holidays and whenever I had free time. Also around that time, I came up with a name, and that name is the Indigo Parallel. And I guess the rest is history. I've been working on the game ever since, and I've been trying to create something very unique and artistic and expressive. And it really comes from a place of passion, and my goal is to create a single player first person experience like no other. And I definitely want it to be weird too. There's definitely sprinkles of weirdness all over this game as well, and some horror as well. But the key thing I want for you to take from my journey into game development is that it's never too late to learn a new skill. I never really used Unity before the Expanse on 2017, but I dove right into it, and I had to teach myself a bunch of things like how to 3D model and texture and all that stuff. But when you're really passionate about something, it doesn't really feel like work. And if you love what you're doing, it won't really feel like a job either. When I started game developing on the Indigo Parallel, I find that time just flies by, and it definitely doesn't feel like work at all. Also, making this game was an outlet for creativity, which I feel is very important for creative people and artists and musicians and stuff like that. I never thought that working on a TV show called The Expanse would eventually lead to a new passion in game design, but I'm very thankful that that's the way it worked out. And I just wanted to mention that today is a very special day because it is 1 year before I release the Indigo Parallel on Steam, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. There's also a Discord server for the game, and if anyone's interested in joining, I'll leave the link in the description for that. Also, I wanted to mention that the channel's grown quite a bit in the last few months, and I want to thank all new subscribers. And if any Expanse fans are still watching, I just want to mention that I have a very big video I've been working on for a while now. It will likely be released before the December 10th when the new season drops. And I just want to say you might like the scale of that video. And cheers guys, and thank you for watching this video.